So these are some of the things that we discovered. I didn't go out and do this survey. We actually employed some young people to go and do it. It was anonymous. Everybody who took part in that survey and answered it did not get paid. So there's no monetary gain in this at all. So this is what we found, that most of the 100 young people that were interviewed were 14, 15 and 17. We also found out that most of them were in Standard 8. Now Standard 8 is the final year of primary school here. So that tells me that a lot of them are behind school already. The girls have already got a disadvantage. There were 22 little areas, little suburbs of Kibera that were interviewed in this. All girls were interviewed. Now, some of the interesting things we found out, most were in primary school, a few were in secondary school, because here you don't go on to a level until you can actually afford to pay for school fees. So that's a really big challenge. When you're only earning $2 a day, what are you going to spend that money on? So parents have to decide. We found out that when it came to sanitary products, 9 of those girls out of 100 did not use anything because they just don't have the money for it. So that's pretty huge. And when they had to ask somebody for some money for some products, most of them of course asked their mother. That was 37%, but 29% had to find the money themselves. So that means they might go out washing clothes or babysitting, or even sometimes I would ask family members. And you know, it doesn't do a lot of confidence when you have to go to an uncle and say, please sir, can I have money for some pads? It doesn't do a lot, and you wouldn't usually find that in the West. We found that some of them would ask their boyfriends for money, and there's all sorts of stories around that. Some of them would go washing clothes, and some would ask family and friends. But here's a question: if you don't have the money to get sanitary products, and you don't have anything at home, what are you going to use? And this is a question I always talk to girls about when I travel overseas and speak in schools. What would you use? And they get all embarrassed and they say, well, leaves and pine cones and that type of thing. It's really weird. But here, 35% of girls would use rags. So that's whatever piece of material you can find. 25% would use tissue. And that's what in the West you would call it toilet paper. Okay? And so just think in your imagination, if I had to use something, what would it be? Now this is the really big crunch. This is what we wanted to find out, and this is something I've read about but didn't have the proof. But 35% of girls, when they get their period, stop going to school. 35%. That's huge. You imagine that might be every month. They might spend months out of school. Again, they're disadvantaged. 58% of girls in Kibera said no. That's because their mothers said, if I have to pay school fees, you're going regardless. So, but again, you don't feel very good about it. And 5%, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. But here's the challenge we want to put to you. Let's keep girls in school. This is not because I'm a female and I'm a feminist. This is simply a right thing to do. Girls have the right to go to school. Why should something that happens to them every month stop them from that? I'm sure, and I've talked with them, I've listened to their stories, that there are young women out here who love to dream big and think, oh, when I grow older I want to become this. But usually the thing that's stopping them is that they don't get to go to school.